Hey guys, this is Courtney from Will's Bloom, and today we're talking about the Capricorn full moon happening on July 13th around noon Mountain Time. So this full moon is happening at 21 degrees and 21 minutes of Capricorn, which means that the sun is directly opposite at 21 degrees of Cancer. So we are in this really interesting dichotomy, which always happens with a full moon, where we have opposing energies. One in which we are cultivating the more nurturing, loving, emotionally intuitive side of ourselves, with the sun being in Cancer, being aware of what we need for emotional security and well-being, as well as Cancer being a wet sign. There is always a quality of socialization or empathy and understanding that comes in with relating as well. But then we also have Capricorn, which is where the moon is. And there's this extra punch of Pluto right here next to the moon in Capricorn, which is giving us this strong emphasis on this Capricorn energy, making it kind of double down or making it much more intense. And this Capricorn energy is related to the masculine. Even though Capricorn is actually a feminine sign, it really embodies much of the masculine, which comes through discipline, hard work, boundaries, commitment, dedicating oneself to something that is very purposeful. And the sun being in Cancer is going to help us understand where we are emotionally connecting with this journey or this thing that we're dedicating ourselves to. It's kind of like the really deep emotional why and spiritual why behind our actions. So a full moon is typically going to equate to either endings or realizations of our goals. A full moon is a wrapping up of a cycle, and it's the culmination period, kind of like the big shebang, the big moment when you're on the top of the hill. And I actually did pull some cards on this. I pulled the Justice and the Ten of Swords, and I feel like this is kind of representative of what this cycle is about. The Justice here is about making a decision, and the Ten of Swords is about an inevitable ending. So I do think many of us are going to come to a decision for an inevitable ending, to leave behind maybe certain people or habits or things that could be getting in the way of us pursuing certain goals and objectives that we have. Maybe it's certain thought patterns that you've always thought, or kind of conversations that you tend to have, excuses that you tend to make, pastimes that waste your time. These things I think will really come to our attention now as we begin to commit to something new, or commit to something that we've already started but in a new way or in a more profound way. I feel like we're going to give it a lot more energy, a lot more resources. But in the process of doing that, we have to eliminate things that are no longer contributing towards this goal, that are distracting us or pulling us away from our objective. And this could be emotional as well, with the sun being in Cancer. There may be emotional tendencies and sensitivities and vulnerabilities that we almost have to override if we've felt like a victim, if we've over-nurtured ourselves and over-nurtured others, and telling ourselves it's okay to not do certain things, it's okay to not be certain ways because you don't feel good, because you've had a bad day. This kind of mothering that we like to see in our world, I think we will notice that this moon is maybe a bit harsher. And it's asking us to become more resilient. It's asking us to become more obsessed and dedicated with what we want. That the fleeting moods of Cancer, the changeability of our nature and the sensitivity is not that we're ignoring it, but that we are not going to use that as the dictator of whether or not we will do something. Because the moon and Cancer is so changeable, so volatile, so emotional, that the Capricorn energy, that's earth, that's stable, that's fixed, that knows where it wants to go. Not a fixed sign, but fixed in its direction. This is going to help this is going to override some of the water, and it's going to bring the water through this channel, essentially. So instead of us being governed by the water, the earth is going to set up the parameter, the boundary, and then our emotions can then run through it. It can fuel us, but it's not going to sway us or persuade us to move away from our objective or our direction, which is a certain goal or something that we really need to achieve to be fulfilled. Because this emotional wateriness, those things are good in the moment and don't lead to ultimate fulfillment. So this beautiful pairing of the masculine and the feminine kind of tendencies here is going to really benefit us. So I think that's why we have the Justice and the Ten of Swords. There is something that is a decision that we have to make for the best of our ability, for the best of our well-being. And it is kind of like an inevitable decision. You see with here with the Ten of Swords, this person is rising up out of this existing body, and they are becoming another soul. They're experiencing another life. They are transforming and transcending what once was. So we are really only able to up level when we decide to stop being our previous version of ourselves. And this decision, while we might have to weigh it out and you know, we've been thinking about it for a while, it is kind of an inevitable decision. At some point, that version of us we know will have to die, because we can't live in a state of homeostasis or stagnation for so long without becoming depressed, without becoming unfulfilled, without getting sick of ourselves. And this Libra card, this Justice Libra card, is also about finding greater balance. So we're not just saying, I'm going to do this no matter what, and then ignoring our intuition, ignoring our feelings. We are disciplining ourselves to channel our feelings and intuition into what we truly desire long term, and balancing these sides of ourselves. So we are not shutting it off, we're not ignoring the water, and we're not letting it overcome us and make decisions for us either. Unless our intuition, of course, is telling us this is the wrong path, this is the wrong direction. The water is informing the land for how it wants to be led. However, it is not overriding and controlling everything based off of a fleeting moment or a fleeting mood. And so I think that this Justice card is saying that there is this nice balance coming together of these sides of ourselves that will allow us to make incredible progress while also being slow and steady. So we have the Eight of Wands and the Knight of Pentacles. The Knight of Pentacles is the slowest, one of the most hardworking cards. It's one where you sit every day and dedicate yourself to your goals, to your craft, to your vision, whatever it is in your life, anything, especially wherever you have Capricorn, but anything in your life. And this Eight of Wands is saying, while it might feel slow, it's also fast. And I've noticed this with myself. I've been doing this program called 75 Hard, and part of it is, like, part of what you have to do every day is read 10 pages a day, no matter what, for 75 days. And so I've already finished a book, and I've noticed that 10 pages doesn't take that long. It doesn't take that much discipline to sit down and read 10 pages. But I've already started my second book, and I'm not even halfway through the program, and I'm just flying through. And it feels so good to finally finish books that I said I wanted to read a long time ago. Because I will pick them up and read chapters here and there and then pull them out for readings. But I will not often sit and read something from cover to cover. And I feel like what this is doing is it's showing me that just a little bit of consistency each and every day, while it might feel slow, while it might feel like it's nothing, actually, it will get you so much further, so much faster. So initially it doesn't feel like much. It feels like 10 pages. I'm never going to finish reading this. But then before you know it, because you're doing it every day, you've already finished an entire book. And I think that is the concept here, is if we're consistent with what we're doing every day, it is going to pull us to the finish line a lot faster than we could have hoped. And that is also what Capricorn is about having a plan and consistently chipping away at that plan. Any earth sign is going to have this tendency of being dedicated and disciplined on the track towards their goals and breaking things down into these bite-sized chunks of what can I do today to achieve what I want. And with Pluto on the moon here, Pluto in Capricorn, it's relentless. It's not allowing ourselves to give up because the going gets tough, because I'm tired at night, because this, that, or the other. It's saying, I will do this. I will remain. And I will also acknowledge how I feel and trust my intuition. But I know that this is in my greatest good. And so I will do it no matter what. And so that is what I see with this Knight of Pentacles, Eight of Wands, as well as Pluto on the moon in Capricorn. Okay. There's a lot of stuff I want to talk about. Okay. The next thing I think I want to bring up is the moon trining Uranus. So the moon is making a trine to Uranus here. And then the sun is making a trine to Neptune. So we kind of have this really interesting support from the outer planets, which are these societal level planets, actually beyond society. What I mean by society is that they affect society. However, they're more evolved than that. They're more spiritual or conscious than that. So I feel like we're getting this support from the universe in a different type of way. The moon being this really habitual planet. I tend to feel the same way. I tend to react the same way. I tend to do things this certain way. With the trine to Uranus, and especially Uranus on the North Node, it is liberating us from past patterns where we have become habitual in a way that is no longer serving us. And that's what I think the Justice and the Ten of Swords was pointing at, was how can I feel and react to things differently, because I now have a stronger sense of purpose in what I want. And so I'm not going to allow these old habits and old reactions and emotions to override that larger purpose. So that Uranus there is going to shake up what was solidified. It's going to break up these strong pillars of who we are and allow us to reform them in a way that actually aligns with what we truly desire and who we truly are and are meant to be. The moon trining Neptune, the sun trining Neptune, is giving us the potential to actualize our dreams. It is allowing us to see the vision. It's allowing us to be inspired by a vision. It's allowing us to have creative inspiration from source and from the divine. And it's through this connection with the divine that our purpose and our idea of our lives is comprised of. And because of that, it is something resolute or strong or defined or full of life that we are able to then dedicate ourselves so obsessively and so resolutely. If it were not inspired by the divine, if it didn't come from source, if it was from ego, if it was something purely based off of a desire for finances or whatever, I don't think that it would give us the lasting ability to truly pursue it regardless of what is going on in our lives. And so I feel like that, plus this trine to the North Node from the moon and the sextile to the North Node from the sun, is really showing us that we are moving in the direction of our soul's evolution. And so it's so much easier to withstand the ebbs and the flows of life, the challenges of life, letting go of our habits and the things that felt comfortable. It's so much easier to do that when you know that the growth that you're going to get at the end will make you so much more happier and fulfilled than your current way of being. Both of these planets, the sun and the moon, are both making a square to Chiron here. So Chiron is an asteroid surrounding essentially some type of fear and wounding. And being in the sign of Aries, there is often a fear of our own willpower, of our own adequacy and individual identity being valuable, being worthy, for just being who we are. So it's like, okay, this is who I am and this is what I want. There can be wounding in that area of our lives. So the fact that this full moon is making a square to it generally is going to say, especially because Mercury itself is in a very tight square. You can see Mercury's at 17 degrees of Cancer and Chiron is at 16 degrees of Aries. So they're like less than 1 degree apart. We can really get in our heads here where we may, while we do feel inspired by the divine, we have this vision, all those things, we may question ourselves. We may doubt ourselves. Am I capable of this? Am I worthy of this goal? Am I even going to be able to do it if I really set my sights on it? So there's going to be all these questionings, these musings of if our willpower is strong enough and if we are worthy enough as individuals to have the things that we want to have. Because that's what Aries is. It's a Mars ruled sign. It's driven by desire. It's going after what it wants. It knows what it wants. It's unashamed of what it wants, and it will take it. But with Chiron here, there's wounding saying, I don't know if I can have that. I don't know if I deserve that. I don't know if I'm able to really be dedicated enough to achieve that. And so if you start to see your mind going through these loops, that is where this is coming from. And it's a square, which means it's giving us the opportunity to have enough tension here for us to realize, I can't think like this anymore. I have to make a change to the way I perceive myself. I have to make a change to the way I perceive my goals and go after things in life so that this thought process doesn't just happen unconsciously or doesn't just happen on loop without being uninterrupted, without being stopped. So the tension of that square is giving us, again, this super visible moment in time where we're like, enough is enough. I'm not going to allow my thoughts to do this to me anymore. So I think that this is a blessing. While it can be uncomfortable, it's the discomfort that leads to change here. And we have to be sick of these thoughts enough to do something about it. And so I think that's the ultimate gift here. And I believe that even though Mercury is combust the sun right now, which means it's kind of being burned by the sun, I think that the light of the sun is also going to inform Mercury about what it is our heart truly desires, so that it can let go of the reasons why and the nervousness and the anxiety around why we can't have it. And it can just focus more so on what it is that our heart wants. Mercury in Cancer is also making an exact sextile to Uranus. So I think that sextile to Uranus in the North Node is going to give us that liberating push again, where we're finally able to break free of these anxious thought patterns and these questions of why I can't have this or whatever. It's going to help us finally liberate ourselves from this cycle of self-inflicted misery. Okay, the last thing I wanted to talk about is what's going on with Venus here, and then the kind of the rest of the cards that I have. Okay, so Venus and Gemini, very social aspect going on. I love Venus and Gemini because I'm a Gemini. But just generally, it's going to bring people more so together. So we might find that many of us are going to be supported by friend groups, by loved ones, or we might even be able to collaborate with them. There's going to be some sense of camaraderie, either through communication or actually working together. And like applying oneself. There's going to be, again, some sense of camaraderie that helps us achieve our goals, especially because Venus is making a trine to Saturn that is exact. They're both at 24 degrees in air signs. So they are here to help uplift us through knowledge, through sharing information, whether, again, this is just a single conversation that gets you on the right track, or you decide to sit down and work together on something and put two heads together. There is something going to be achieved through the passing of information, because this is a time in which our minds are primed for success by creating some kind of hive mind or group consensus. like we will achieve so much more when working together at this time. So if you've been kind of hesitant or resistant to the idea of asking someone for help, really sitting down with others about an idea, or directly working with someone else, this is not the time to let those thoughts get in your way, because collaboration right now is key. I also pulled the Queen of Swords and the Three of Cups, and I feel like that's exactly what this is saying. The the Queen of Swords to me is this discernment, this knowledge, this objectiveness that Saturn can bring to the situation, and that even Venus and Gemini can bring into the situation. And the Three of Cups is almost like an emotional fulfillment that we're also getting out of this shared experience together. So that's really one important aspect. Venus is also making a square to Neptune. It's almost an exact square as well. So there may be ways in which, while we are sharing information and things are really improving by working together and collaborating, there may be ways in which we still have misunderstandings with certain people in our lives. Could be with those same people, could be with another group of people, but there can be ways in which we kind of miss each other. So while Venus and Gemini wants to be very objective and really fully understand what's going on in a situation, Neptune tends to distort the reality, making this objectiveness kind of impossible. So Venus making a square to Neptune can indicate that there may be some element of relationships or some element of relating, connecting, that will be distorted no matter how hard we try. And so if there are misconceptions or misperceptions of things, just know that that's kind of part of what's going on right now. And the trine with Saturn will help improve this and make it hopefully something that is more defined and tangible. So we may find that specifically working together with someone is a great way to achieve that objective kind of consensus. And then if we're trying to have a different kind of relationship, we might find that it's a little bit more obscure or harder to understand. That might not be the case, but like I said, it's possible that some relationships are distorted and some aren't. Or this could be this mixed bag scenario where there is some level of like working well together, things being stable, kind of some degree of understanding one another, while also having another situation that could be unclear, distorted, and that type of thing. So that's just something I'm going to say right there. I would also maybe warn against being like thinking that someone has all the answers. While we are collaborating, I don't want anyone to get overly reliant on like one person's point of view or objective with this Venus squaring Neptune, which can indicate that we want to connect with others, but we want to also keep in mind our own intuition as the final say in regards to important things in our lives. Okay, I'm going to finish up by talking about these last few cards here. So I want to talk about this Control and this Cobra card, which are very similar. This Control card is about us having our ability to control certain things in our lives. And that is what Saturn is. It's a lot about our control over ourselves, our self-control. And I feel like I've been really kind of beating a dead horse, but just talking about how we are becoming disciplined and going after what we want kind of regardless of these swaying moods. And I feel like this Control card really shows that we are not victims of our circumstances at all times. There is some sense of us being able to dictate what we do day in and day out, and we don't have full control over everything, but there's a lot we have control over. And I think that this full moon in Capricorn is about being extremely honest with ourselves, because Capricorn is a Saturn rule sign, which is blunt and almost like harsh with its honesty. Being extremely honest with ourselves and maybe even others about what we have control over and what we need to do to get out of any kind of funk or stagnation, or to, at the very least, to move towards our ultimate goals. Whether you are in a funk or not, not everyone will be, but we will be inspired by something. And the only way to achieve it is to realize that you have enough authority and control over most of your life in order to make it happen. So if it's not happening, realizing it is your fault because you have the potential to make it happen. This Cobra card to me has that same energy. It's us striking with fierceness at what we want in life. The Cobra is very unafraid. It will go after what it wants. I don't know a lot about Cobras, but I have this feeling that it will stalk its prey type of thing. So this kind of energy, this force to be reckoned with, is what we are cultivating at this full moon. The other element of this Cobra card in the book is talking about a teacher. So many of us will be guided by a teacher, or maybe want to become teachers or go back to school or learn something new. And this could be for many of us learning something new about ourselves internally, emotionally, with the Sun in Cancer, or learning more of what we're capable of. But we're unlocking some new level of ourselves, whether that's through a teacher or school or just the understanding of this moon. There's something that we're learning in this process that is going to help us achieve our goals. And then the last thing is really surrounding ourselves with people we want to be like, with positive people, uplifting people. With Venus and Gemini, this is a time in which others will help us achieve our goals now more than ever. It's not really a solitary time, although Jupiter in Aries is asking us to choose ourselves above the group. We are able to succeed at this moment much better with the help of others. Whether or not Jupiter is in Aries, it's still asking us to maybe choose ourselves while in a group dynamic. So yeah, this positive-minded people card is really illustrating that anything is possible with the right people on our side. So that is what I'm seeing for the entire moon. If you want to see what the breakdown is for your sign, go ahead and keep watching. And I will have links for all the time codes in the description box down below. If you want an astrology reading from me, or if you want to learn astrology from me, I offer both of those things on my website, willisbloom.com, or in the description box down below. Thanks, guys. All right, up first we have my beautiful Aries rising. So for you guys, this full moon in Capricorn is happening along your 4th and 10th house axis. So the full moon, the moon itself in Capricorn with Pluto, is in your 10th house of career. And this is interesting because Pluto is generally going to bring up some kind of repressed or unconscious things when it is a full moon, because the full moon tends to illuminate, and Pluto being right next to the moon is going to illuminate things that have been unconscious or repressed, or even fears, things of that nature within the career, within the goals, the life objectives, the things that you're reaching towards. And I pulled the Ace of Pentacles and the Moon card together, which to me are indicating that this is kind of what is coming to the surface. The moon is what has been hidden, what has been psychic, and the undercurrent of emotions, or the undercurrent of your soul's desire to evolve that's been pulling you, but without full awareness. That is what the moon is a lot of unconscious things happening. And the Ace of Pentacles are work and financial opportunities, the things that are on the horizon for you. And so I feel like you guys have maybe had, or at this full moon will have, some of those things come to the surface. If you've had opportunities that you've kind of shied away from pursuing, and this doesn't just have to be like the career sector, it can be anything, again, goal oriented, anything that you want to create in your life. I feel like if you've had any opportunities that bring up fear, that bring up like unconscious motivations, or just anything that has been, again, kind of shrouded in mystery within the self, that is all going to come to the surface right now. And I think it's ultimately going to help you see where you have been maybe too timid in some area of your life. With this Deer card, the deer is very fearful. The deer will run from the things that it wants if it's eating or something, if it senses danger, if it senses that there's a greater threat. And there may be areas of your life, specifically around your goals, where you maybe have shied away from your full potential out of fear of what could be lurking around the corner, and how that thing or that situation could have negatively affected you, but this largely is unconscious because of Pluto. So there may be some unconscious fears that have prevented you from really going after things to your fullest potential. And this control card is coming up to show that you are becoming more aware of how you have power over your life and your circumstances. So you have power and control over your fear responses. You know, you might have the initial fear, but then how you respond to that fear is where you have control. And so this control card to me is telling me that you guys are becoming not only more conscious of your power, but you're starting to utilize it more to create the life that you want. So instead of being dictated by these unconscious fears that are holding you back, you are becoming aware of them and then deciding to do things differently because of that awareness. So I think you guys are starting to believe more in your ability and not let the basic kind of instinctual fears or insecurities or self-doubt get in your way. But you may encounter that because this full moon is squaring Chiron in your sign. So you have to kind of encounter it and face it head on in order to see what you are ultimately overcoming. Okay. There's a lot of information for this moon. I highly suggest to watch the entire overview. I don't know that I want to go into every single little detail for all the signs because it is so much. But yeah, I have a bunch of other cards that I would like to talk about. This moon is also making a trine to Uranus in the North Node in your second house. What does this give you? It says that as you begin to face certain fears that you have, maybe even creative blocks with the Page of Cups in reverse, as you begin to face that and turn into somebody who is investing in your intuition, investing into what feels exciting and opening up your creative self again with this Nine of Cups, as you do that, you'll start to see that there are financial avenues that open up for you, unexpected ways in which you can earn money. And this might be through some of those creative visions that you have, the things that you maybe initially thought weren't possible. And so this can be a really exciting time, but you first have to release any self-doubt around whether or not it can work. And with this Empress in reverse, you are in the process of ending a cycle with the Death card where you are not investing in yourself and loving yourself and valuing yourself. And so this whole moon is going to bring more value to yourself and your gifts, which will, with the trine to Uranus in a second, eventually unlock some kind of financial potential for you that wasn't there before. And this moon, the sun is also making a trine to Neptune. So the sun in your fourth trining Neptune in the 12th, I believe is going to give you some kind of emotional release. So this Empress with the Death, Empress in reverse with the Death card, to me, is there's some type of blockage of seeing yourself as the queen, as the creator of your life, as a powerful, magnificent woman or man. And so in order to override that belief that is preventing you from seeing that, you need to have some kind of emotional purge, because there may be some underlying beliefs as I'm talking about them, that I just mentioned, that are in the way, that you believe more than you believe that you're valuable and amazing, everything I just said. And so the emotional purging, I think, is going to get at the core of the belief. Like, you will release whatever emotions are attached to it so that it can kind of remove itself. And I think that ultimately you will get a lot of support from the home environment as well, whether that's your actual family or where you're living, or the aesthetic and the energy and vibe of your home. That plus the intimacy of having time alone within the home will regenerate you and allow you to express some of these emotions, which will help you believe in yourself more. And it might not feel like it's a direct thing, like, oh, if I'm sad and I express it, then I believe in myself. But there's somehow that sadness is somehow connected to the false sense of self, or the false self-image. And so processing and releasing those emotions will ultimately help you dismantle this belief system, which is impeding your like sense of amazingness, I should say. Okay. You guys also have Mercury in the 4th house making a sextile to Uranus in the 2nd, and I think that has a lot to do with this. You are able to revalue yourself. You guys also have Venus and Gemini in the 3rd house, trining Saturn in the 11th, and squaring Neptune in the 12th. So I will say that you are creating a new foundation in your relationships. And I also think that as you are growing and stabilizing your friend group, making new connections, investing in certain people, there may also be ways in which you don't understand certain people, or you don't understand like where this is all going. So some of you may have like surprises or some part of a relationship that you just don't get. So for example, if you just started like dating someone and you're like not really sure where it's going, or if you just entered into a friend group and you don't quite know how you feel about them, but you're investing more time and energy into it. So it's something that I feel like with the trine to Saturn, there is some solidity that you want to invest further into something, but there may be another relationship or even that same relationship where there's confusion. In some way, like you can have a conversation, you don't feel like you get the person, that type of thing. So I don't know that I have like necessarily advice for that. Let me see, like, let me pull an animal card to see like advice, because I hate to just be like, hey, you're experiencing this, and then just kind of like leave it at that. I got that Bat card. So I feel like the advice is not really that helpful, but the Bat is able to see within the darkness. It kind of revels in it, right? It lives in the darkness. And with Neptune, the square with Neptune in the 12th house and Venus in the 3rd, Venus in the 3rd in Gemini wants to have like full awareness of something, but Neptune is in the darkness. It's the Bat. So can you revel in this not understanding? Can you revel in the fact that like you won't have clear vision about how this thing will unfold? And maybe that is some of where the magic is in releasing expectations, and releasing a need to control, and just kind of allowing this social situation to play out while continuing to invest in it because of the trine to Saturn, which is calling you to invest in it. So that is essentially what I'm seeing here. I feel like you guys are stepping much more into your confidence in your career because you are willing to face and process some of your fears and difficult emotions that could have been unconscious up to this point in time and could have been ultimately preventing you from reaching out further into your potential. I think you're also realizing just exactly how much control you have over these circumstances, and you're taking back your power by ultimately processing, again, a lot of emotions and unblocking some creative blocks that are there, and accepting whatever relationships as they are while investing in them and not having to know exactly where everything is going. So that is what I'm saying for your Aries rising. If that resonates, please let me know by liking and commenting down below. And if you want an astrology reading from me, you can always book one from my website, willsboom.com, and I have links for that in the description box down below. And I hope you guys have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Taurus rising. So for you guys, this full moon in Capricorn is happening along your 9th and 3rd house axis. The moon is in your the 9th house, conjunct Pluto. So very heavy emphasis on personal growth right now. If it's not specific to like I really want to be better in this area of my life, maybe some of you are starting to study something new. You just got accepted into a school. Maybe some of you are deciding to go abroad, travel for a bit, live abroad. And if it's not one of those kind of more specific things, if you're not working on some type of thing in that area of your life or teaching, then I think many of you are just trying to develop a certain quality within yourself. And I feel like you guys have been really working hard, maybe even kind of to the point of exhaustion with this 10 of Wands. on a certain issue or with a certain person or in some specific area of your life. I feel like there is a consistency, a dedication, an obsessiveness to get down to the root cause of something. With Pluto conjunct this moon, this is all about the root cause of why we want a specific quality and why we haven't gotten it before. What within us has prevented us from achieving something, or within our environment has prevented us from having the success that we're looking for. And with the sun in the third house, I feel like your mind is extremely intellectual right now. You have a lot of information that's coming in, especially through conversations, where you're able to process a lot by talking to others and by meditating, because I did pull this meditation card, and I'm going to get to that in a second because the sun is making a trine to Neptune. But there's a lot consciously that's going through your mind. And again, I think really talking it out with someone is going to benefit you extremely well. And I think that's why I pulled this Nightingale card, which is all about conversation. So not only I think it would benefit to talk to a third party about a situation to get more insight, but to also communicate about something specific if it affects someone. So being very clear about what you need or what you think about a certain situation, just because, yeah, it affects them. It's like there's an honesty and an expression that is calling you right now. And that's the only way you are going to develop whatever it is you are looking for, is if you express exactly kind of what is going on and share information with others in order to achieve whatever it is you're looking for. Venus is your planetary ruler, and it's in Gemini, making a square to Neptune and a trine to Saturn. So it is, first of all, your ruler being in Gemini is again calling you to talk, to communicate, especially sun in the third house. All of this is about sharing ideas, connecting with others. So very strong emphasis on the socializing aspect in order to understand oneself. In order to also commit to kind of like the right steps forward in achieving what you're trying to get. So if you are trying to move abroad, talking to the right people so that you understand where to live, what paperwork to submit, so that you don't miss anything important. That's a very practical, mundane thing, but if it's more internal, if you're trying to sort something out in your life or develop this certain aspect of your personality, you need to talk to other people to see what could be missing from your awareness. But the ruler, your planetary ruler Venus, is also making a square to Neptune. So there may be some element also that you're not able to fully grasp or see or understand at this time. So even though you talk to people, even though you get a lot of insight, even though you kind of know what steps to take next, especially in career, because Venus is also in the second house trining Saturn in the 10th. So it's like, here's what you can do in order to sort out your values, in order to sort out your finances also. And what is meaningful, what is important to you. Here's what you can do, and here's how you can directly put it into your goals and put it into your work with that trine with Saturn in the 10th. So there is something very concrete that you're getting from these conversations. But with Venus in the second also squaring Neptune in the 11th, you might not know where you stand within certain relationships. You might be confused about long-term goals. You might be confused about like the bigger picture. Although the full moon happening in the 9th does help you get a more concrete view of the bigger picture, I think at the same time, the longevity of it is what is uncertain to you. So you might kind of know what you want and what you're going after in the more short term, or maybe even in the next 1 to 3 years. But there's something about what's possible for long term, or how this relates to your life goals, or how you fit into a social sphere, or there's just something about this whole situation that will not be clear right now. And so you're going to get a lot from these conversations, but if you still feel this like uncertainty or confusion or misunderstanding between people, know that that's okay as well, because that's also part of this energy. I pulled the King of Wands, which is your first card, followed by the 10 of Wands. So I feel like you guys are in this really weird place in your life where you are equally parts inspired and hardworking and kind of determined and relentless towards what you're going after, but from a very excitable place. And I feel like you're also kind of exhausted, like you're running yourself ragged. You feel like you've done everything, or I don't know, the Ten of Wands just represents a burden that is not sustainable. And so I feel like you are willing to keep going at this pace because the King of Wands is also like excited about what it's doing, and I think it's taking a toll on you. So not that you're shying away from it, not that you are going to quit whatever it is, but there is some element here of getting a little bit run down. And I think that's also why the Sun making a trine to Neptune is saying that the 11th, or in the 11th house, is saying that meditation, and as well as time with friends, especially creative time, relaxing time, spiritual time, and community, those elements are going to revive you. And it's like you're going to have to do those things. Otherwise, I think you could eventually burn out, which is what the Ten of Wands typically represents. You guys are also experiencing this moon with Pluto making a trine to Uranus in the first house. So a lot of these deeper explorations and realizations are going to help get you out of a funk. Uranus in the first house is destabilizing in your character, your personality, and maybe even your physical appearance. Destabilizing in a good way. Shaking things up, because you are a fixed sign. There is something routine about Taurus. There is something consistent and steadfast that's good, but also monotonous and can lead to stagnation or delays. And so there is something that is going to kind of revive you, like a jolt of electricity or energy here, and bring in the necessary changes into whatever area of your life you're trying to develop and change, so that it becomes just so much wiser, so that it becomes so much more genuine and authentic and aligned with who you are and where you want to go. But it's okay, again, if you're still not 100% clear on how it's going to unfold. And it's okay to keep investing further into it, even without that full awareness. Because again, Venus trine Saturn asks you to invest, especially in relationships. And Venus square Neptune is saying you won't really understand fully about the whole entire situation, even though you will continue to invest. So I guess the last thing I'll say is that this full moon is also squaring Chiron in your 12th house. So a lot of healing is happening on an unconscious level. And it can trigger fears, especially fears of isolation, loneliness, fears of being different, fears of not being enough. All those things can kind of be running on the back burner. They're likely very unconscious. So they're likely something that you won't even think about. But they're kind of maybe running as a program underneath the surface of everything that's going on in your life. So just be aware of that, because the more aware you are, the more you can heal. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Taurus Rising. I hope that resonates. If you want an astrology reading from me, you can book one on my website, willswomb.com. There's a link in the description box down below, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have my Gemini Rising. So for you guys, this full moon in Capricorn is happening along your 8th and 2nd house axis, with the moon and Pluto being conjunct in the 8th house. This can be very intense in terms of emotions. Oftentimes a full moon and Pluto, 8th house, all these things can bring about a lot of emotions already. And they can bring about a lot of fears. And this can often be through some kind of crisis or a situation which prevents itself, which makes one really have to face like the burdens of life or of challenging emotional situations. So having to face some of those things allows you to bear witness or mirror certain aspects of what's happening internally. So the external challenging situation is a reflection of the internal challenging, internal discord that I see. And I feel like this full moon is saying that there is some completion of that. So there was some, I feel like this could maybe represent something more so in the past, or maybe you'll re-experience a little one and it's like you tie up the loose ends and you're like, wow, if this would have happened to me 2 months ago, I would have reacted in this way. But because of how much I've had to go through, this experience recently feels like I can handle it, and I can handle it in a different way. So there is some completion process happening. There is some fulfillment or ending process happening around like a crisis mirroring what's happening inside of you. And you coming to terms with certain aspects of yourself and persevering despite what's going on in that crisis, internally and externally. I hope that's making sense, because I pulled the Seven of Wands and the World card, and I feel like that really represents what this is here. It's like the ending of some kind of emotional back and forth. And this could be with others, because you see the Seven of Wands, this person is encountering it's really, traditionally it's about competition, but I feel like this person is really caught in an unusual environment and somewhere that he's not used to, and he doesn't really belong. And so that sense of not belonging can get him in trouble, can get him in an argument, or not see eye to eye with people. So some of you may have experienced this within relationships, and others of you maybe experience this more internally, where there are, or even externally, but not in forms of people, but more so in forms of circumstances or events or things where you need to hold your boundaries to achieve success, and maybe have had trouble doing so, or maybe had to fight certain circumstances in order to complete or achieve what you want. So it can be either way, or it can be both. But there's, with this World card, a wrapping up of this cycle, a fulfillment of this cycle. Like, okay, you check the box on this. You've learned how to set boundaries to achieve your goals. You've gone through enough experiences with chaos in your relationships and these, arguments or whatever this could be, not seeing eye to eye. And now you can have a rest from that. And you've kind of gained the wisdom and the experience that the external environment was reflecting within you, and you've done some of the internal work to complete that cycle, at least for now. And so that's what I'm seeing, is like, it's possible that this full moon could bring up again another circumstance, but it's almost like you've gone through it enough to where you're graduating, and this final thing is like the test that you are passing because of the previous experiences have led you to have the skills and the tools to pass that test. I also feel like with this compassion card, you guys have gone through these experiences and are learning to have compassion for yourself and others in a new way that is going to give you like the regenerative power after these circumstances. So instead of maybe becoming overly critical of yourself or others, and damaging the relationship with yourself or others, you're able to have compassion and love and understanding that will allow you to move on, to heal, to grow from the circumstance rather than get caught up in it. And that's why this card has so much foliage and greenery, because it's able to, again, regenerate and grow new limbs and things, because it's coming from a place of love. And that is how babies are made. Okay. This full moon is also making a trine to Uranus in the 12th house. So there is a huge liberation from some of these emotional cycles. The 8th house can also be filled with lots of fear, as well as the 12th house. And so I think with Uranus, though, which is a planet of liberation and freedom, I think it's helping you face those fears directly in an honest way and release yourself from them. So if you're scared of being alone, if you're scared of failing, if you're scared of not being enough, whatever it is, I feel like some of those things can present themselves so that you realize, yes, they're there, but they're not enough to keep me from believing in myself and doing what I need to do to succeed. The sun in the 2nd house is going to help you value yourself, especially emotionally, because this is in the sign of Cancer. It's going to help you see yourself through that compassionate lens. And the 2nd house is where we value things because we put meaning on them. And so when we make something mean something, it's giving it a certain value, whether good or bad, less or more. And so you're reevaluating yourself from a more compassionate, loving lens so that you can make your behavior, your personality, the things that you once saw as flaws and picked apart, you can make them mean something else by giving yourself context. Like, okay, I do this, but that's because I had this past. And because of this context, I'm giving myself compassion and love and understanding of who I am instead of criticism and rigidity and harshness. And that will help you value yourself and love yourself even more. And the sun is also making a trine to Neptune in the 10th house. So this self-evaluation is going to help boost your career. The universe is going to then reflect back to you the circumstances and events that honor this new value system. I think I'm amazing, so the universe thinks I'm amazing, and it's going to present amazing opportunities. So that is something I'm seeing here for sure. The sun and moon are also squaring Chiron in the 11th house. So this can bring up some of those insecurities, specifically around social situations with the 11th house here. What's my identity and my value in a social network, amongst my friend groups? What's my sense of belonging? So that can be kind of triggered to work throughout this time. And you maybe, again, will have to confront some of your fears that could be related to that. You guys, your ruler is in Cancer. Mercury's in Cancer in the 2nd house, sextiling Uranus in the 12th. So I think that this is part of what is going to help you understand a lot more about your psyche so that you can reevaluate yourself in a healthier and positive way. This is a lot of support from the divine, like getting some downloads and messages that click and make sense for you on an intellectual level. Because as a Gemini rising, you operate with like this kind of intellect, with more objectivity and fact. But I think the universe is going to give you like certain data that's going to help you see, oh, I am valuable, I am worthy, and this is why. Okay, so I feel like I covered the astrology. Let me talk a little bit more about these cards. So I pulled the 4 of Wands and the Judgment card. So I have a couple of things I want to say about this. Some of you may be making decisions about certain relationships in your life. The Judgment card is about an awakening. So you might have realizations about certain relationships. Actually, wait, no, there's something I didn't talk about, which is Venus and Gemini. Okay. Venus, which is the relationship planet, is in your sign in the 1st house. So you guys, relationships are definitely a strong focus, as well as you might just feel like, yeah, you might feel more attractive than usual as well. Venus and Gemini is trining Saturn in the 9th. So this is going to help you in a way like solidify certain beliefs and ideals and understandings around relationships, certain relationships that you have, or even your relationship with yourself. It doesn't even have to be about others. But Gemini being so social, it's likely going to be both. So I feel like you guys are kind of altering or defining and like solidifying beliefs around your connection with others and your connection with yourself and your value. Venus is also squaring Neptune in the 10th house. So there may be some confusion though about how this will then translate into your life goals and your objectives. I feel like there is a sense of inspiration that can come here, but also a sense of confusion of like, okay, I'm inspired, or I want to be inspired, but I'm not exactly sure of exactly where I'm going, you know? And it's unusual because Venus trining Saturn in the 9th usually gives us that like clear vision of our steps forward, you know, what our purpose is and why we're moving towards something. And I do think that you have that. I think you have the why, but I think that you're lacking maybe like the end goal, if that makes sense. It's like, I feel like you're really defined in your sense of morals and integrity. And this is how I want to make a difference in the world. And this is like, you know, how I want to impact people. But then in terms of where it's all going and how exactly you're going to do that, I think that might be less clear to you. and your relationship with your career might be a little bit less clear, or your relationship with certain objectives might be a little less clear as well. But some of you might start to reminisce or go back to like old things that you used to do, things that you used to love or used to be a part of your life with the Sun and Six of Cups card. Like you might be like, I don't really know what I want to do, but I know how I want to impact the world, and I know what my value system is. So now I'm going to go revisit the things that I used to really love and see if I can make a difference in that way. So some of you might do that. This could be more literal and say that some of you may be traveling back home to see friends and family, kind of revisiting certain aspects of your childhood in a more like literal sense. But I think many of you might have it in a figurative sense within your career as well. With the Sun and Six of Cups, you might also gain awareness about your childhood and how that's impacting you today. Especially with the full moon in the 8th house. This is super linked to our family experiences. And with Pluto there, you might unearth aspects of your family experience and childhood and the trauma there that inform your personality today. So I'm going to wrap up with this Four of Wands and the Judgment card. So I kind of mentioned some of you may make decisions about certain relationships, like this person is in line with where I want to go. I'm awakening to the realization that they are the kind of person I want to be with or not. This could be romantic, this could be friendship, this could be community-based. Especially with this square to Chiron on the 11th, it could be kind of where some of the pain is if it's in a friend group or group setting. What's also really coming to mind with this is the Four of Wands is like very relaxed. Like these people are just sitting here at peace, comfortable, chilling. They're not trying to achieve anything. They're in this celebration period, a joy period. And so I feel like this is what we're searching for in life, right? This is what we want. We want to achieve that success to the point where we can just enjoy it. However, the Judgment card is a card of action. Well, it's not action. It's more like realization. And then we take action based off of that realization. So like I'm awakening to more information. And because of this new information, I can't look at the situation the same. So I have to do something different. And I have to make a choice about how I'm going to behave now. So I feel like there is something about, there's some connection here between these cards. So it's either you are making a decision that is going to ultimately help you achieve this success where you can just relax, or you may be a little bit too complacent and you kind of realize that you've been in your comfort zone and are awakening to it and making different decisions. So there's like many, many layers to these two cards that I'm seeing about relationships and about the way that you're acting in terms of your goals and your comfort zone and celebration, everything like that. Okay, so that was a lot of information. I hope that resonates. If it does, let me know by liking, commenting down below. If you want an astrology reading from me, you can always buy one on my website, willsboom.com, and I also have that linked in the description box down below. And I hope you guys have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Cancer Rising. For you guys, this full moon in Capricorn is happening in your 7th house, which means that Pluto will be conjunct this moon in the 7th house as well. So heavy emphasis on relationships. And this moon is making a trine to Uranus in the North Node in the 11th house. So this is, again, tying in that extra layer of relationships here. So maybe intimate partnerships, maybe close friendships, along with your sense of belonging and community and kind of future goals and where you plan on being in terms of your relationships. So a full moon is a time of endings or often realizations, culminations. And so you might find that there are certain relationships that you desire to change or shift in some way. Or maybe you desire to change the dynamic within a relationship. So not leaving that person, but becoming more aligned or more acquainted in the way that you want to be in that dynamic. So that is a potential, especially with this moon trining Uranus. There is a desire for us to change and evolve as a society. And for you guys, this is likely in your sense of belonging, your community, and your network that you're really going to feel this. The sun is in your first house right now. Heavy emphasis and focus on yourself and your emotional needs. And it's often when we are reflecting upon ourselves that we're becoming more aware of where we want to go, who we want to be, and who we can take with us in that process, and kind of who doesn't really belong there. With Pluto, with the moon in the 7th house, I think you're going to become acutely aware of anything that has been suppressed within the relationships, anything that you've been fearful of occurring within relationships as well. And if there have been any weird power plays and power dynamics where maybe somebody has more kind of influence over you than you would like, I think you'll start to really pick up on and notice these things as this full moon occurs. With the sun in your first house, not only are you being illuminated in terms of what's best for you and kind of what you need to feel more nourished emotionally, but the sun is also making a trine to Neptune in the 9th house. So I feel like you are also becoming more spiritually aware. Neptune in the 9th house is where we are identifying more with our belief systems and our values. And we are kind of understanding, okay, these are the things that I need to be fulfilled because as a spirit and as a soul, this is where I'm headed. This is what I need. And so it's almost like you are more in communion with God right now than usual. And you are being helped and aided in that way by the universe. This full moon is making a square to Chiron in your 10th house. So there can be some insecurities and some woundings that come up specifically in your career. You may find that your sense of individuality and this is what I want and this is what I need maybe starts flourishing in other areas of your life, but seems a little bit more challenged within certain goals or certain career moves that you're trying to achieve. It might not be career for everyone, but usually there's some objective that we're moving towards that will bring up insecurities within us as we're trying to pursue it. And I feel like that's really what you guys are starting to notice at this full moon. Mercury is in your sign, in your first house, hanging out with the sun. So you might feel like you are more emotional now than usual. Actually, how do I say this? Mercury being in your sign will make you maybe a little bit more objective, or maybe not objective being in the sign of Cancer, but I should say more aware of your emotions from like an intellectual perspective. So this can be very helpful with that sextile with the Sun and Mercury making a sextile to Uranus in 11th. It can make you a lot more aware of kind of what is working and what isn't within your group and relationship dynamics because of your own emotional awareness. You're like, oh, I can actually pinpoint and talk about very directly how I'm feeling in this situation with this person. And you can start to get really clear with people about what you want and what you need. I feel like this microphone is in a really weird spot. Okay, so you guys also have Venus and Gemini in your 12th house. So typically when we have Venus moving through the 12th house, we can feel like relationships are going through it. We might be like less connected to our relationships, or we might encounter more hidden things within our relationships. We might find that we have more fears around relationships, like fears of loss or even of betrayal, or just like uncertainty around our sense of belonging. That can happen when Venus moves to the 12th house, and we all experience this for, around a month. We all kind of get this energy push where we're like a little bit out of tune or out of touch with our relationships, more so than usual. So it's a time when the relationship planet is going through a deeper unconscious analysis. It's kind of passing through the realms of spirit to connect more with its emotional needs, to see what's working, what isn't, but in an unconscious way. So I think that there is a lot consciously happening where you're like, this feels good, this doesn't, I'm going to communicate about this, I'm going to change these aspects of my relationships. But then I think that there's also an undercurrent of unconscious patterns that are also taking place at the same time. So while you may be addressing certain aspects of relationships, I think there are also going to be things that you're not aware of within relationships that when Venus does finally move into your first house, you will become more enlightened as to why something is happening. Let me see when that is exactly for you guys. We'll move into Cancer on July 18th. So you might notice more on July 18th or around this date, more or less, depending on where your ascendant begins. You might notice on this day and around this day that things become a little bit clear that maybe you didn't know or you didn't see before. And especially because Venus is making a square at this full moon to Neptune, which can already make things a little bit uncertain. And let me pull up my chart again. So the square to Neptune is happening. So Venus is in the 12th and Neptune is in your 9th. So you may have certain like ideals and, you know, spiritual things that you're trying to achieve, beliefs, but they might not align with exactly what you're experiencing within relationships. So, okay, let me talk about some of the cards that I'm seeing, because for whatever reason, I just kind of dove really headfirst into that without addressing the cards. So, actually, really quick, I did want to mention that Venus is also making a trine to Saturn in your 8th house. So this is kind of where I see that it can bring up a lot of like insecurities and fears around like loss or not belonging or things related to childhood. But again, I think a lot of this might be unconscious or like happening and driving certain decisions without you maybe having full awareness. So that's something I want to say. Okay, now let's take a look at some of these cards. So for some reason I pulled a lot for you. The two first cards that I got was the Two of Wands and the Sun. So some of you guys might be planning a trip. I don't know if that's the case for you. That's kind of like a literal version of this. Maybe you're planning to go on vacation, especially with the Sun making a trine to Neptune in the 9th. This is for travel abroad. This is like beneficial. You can have kind of like an idyllic trip. So yeah, that might be part of what this is. But I think a lot of you guys are just having much more awareness right now with the Sun. It's illuminating, bringing knowledge, bringing understanding to your life about where you want to go with this Two of Wands. And I think for many of you, it's not only where you want to go in terms of future, but also who can come with you, as I've mentioned before. I think it gets a lot clearer about what relationships kind of match up with your life when you know what you want and where you're headed. When you can look at somebody else and what they're doing and how they're influencing you, you can really easily or quickly decide if that's working, if that's kind of in alignment, or if they're headed in a totally different direction. You guys also got the Eight of Wands and Wheel of Fortune. So I think that your life is starting to pick up right now in general with the Sun in your first house. This is a time of busyness. This is a time when you might have just kind of a lot going on and you might feel like things are positively impacting you. You have this trine from Neptune in the 9th house, which is giving you this kind of universal or spiritual support. And it can make you feel like a little bit luckier, a little bit more blessed. And the Eight of Wands to me is definitely indicating that things are just moving fast and in a positive direction. And because of that, I think you're being asked to give back. So the things that are being gifted to you, the miracles that are being sent to you, the opportunities are here for you not to just benefit for yourself, but to help others. And I think that that's a big part of what this full moon is. It is a full moon in the house of others. So it's not just about analyzing your relationships. It's also about utilizing these current opportunities to benefit those that you love and maybe even strangers. I also feel like you are in a phase of things maybe going a little bit smoothly with this Gazelle card. I'm not getting anything like particularly challenging from your chart. Maybe if you do have some relationship endings and like fears and things like that, that could be the case. And sometimes the Gazelle is quite fearful of, some more intense animals, but also the Gazelle is really majestic and has a lot of really amazing experiences, kind of running around and enjoying the sunsets and eating food and being in a pack that it wants to be in. So I feel like there's a lot that you are looking forward to, a lot that's going well, and things are kind of running like a well-oiled machine. And there might be some nipping and tucking and adjustments in relationships on top of that. So it's like many other things are going well in your life that I feel like you can just appreciate and enjoy and bask in. The last cards that I'm going to talk about are some swords cards. So we have the Four of Swords, the Queen of Swords, and then ending in the High Priestess. So the Four of Swords and Queen of Swords to me tell me that, I mean, all these cards have a lot of blue and they all represent some deep introspection. The Four of Swords is almost taking yourself away from your daily life and routine to reflect on what in relationships in particular are working or not working. This Queen of Swords card is you willing to cut certain people out or have certain difficult conversations as a result of these realizations. But it's not coming from a mean place, although the Queen of Swords can be quite bitchy. I feel like with the Queen of Swords, with the High Priestess card together, there is this emphasis on doing what is right intuitively. And that might be approaching a situation with a lot of compassion and grace, while also being direct and honest and not beating around the bush. And so I feel like a lot of you guys, because of the reflection that you've been doing with Venus in your 12th house, because of all this stuff that might be coming to the surface, you guys are going to start realizing what relationships are truly in your highest good with this High Priestess card, the ones that are adding to you as a soul, and the ones that aren't, you're going to address those in some way that is going to ultimately be more beneficial for you. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Cancer Rising. I hope that resonates. If it does, please let me know by liking and commenting down below. If you want an astrology reading from me, you can always get one from my website, willisboom.com, or I will link it down in the description box down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have my beautiful Leo risings. This full moon is happening in your 6th and 12th house axis, with the moon in Capricorn being in your 6th house conjunct Pluto. So what's interesting is that I feel like you guys are doing quite a bit of a deep dive and doing a lot of like clearing, but I'm getting two specific messages. One associated with that, and then one in particular associated with an unexpected blessing. And so I'm really excited to talk about this with you guys, because I feel like some of the work that you'll be doing around this full moon will pay off immensely, not only in your personal life, but just energetically. I think it's going to make you very attractive to the things that you want in your life. So Moon and Pluto in the 6th house can be extremely intuitive. I feel like you are much more in touch with maybe even your physical body, your needs in a moment. And I think that's one of the one of the emphases here is that I think that you guys are definitely being asked to very much tune in with your needs. And I think that cultivating that is going to help. Cultivating that focus on yourself is going to help you attract those things that you desire. So making sure that you have enough rest, making sure that you have enough balance of giving and receiving, kind of asking for your needs to be met in different areas of your life. So I think this is fine-tuning your awareness, and it can be in the very small parts of your day, or it could be around your literal physical body, or it could be kind of expressing more of your needs and everything within the workplace as well. Capricorn moon with Pluto can be this powerhouse of kind of demanding respect and having innate power within them. And I think this might be what you are trying to cultivate on a day-to-day basis. One of the best ways to do that is to be in tune with what you need and ask for what you need, because once you get your needs met, it's almost like you have more strength within you to keep using your voice for other things that matter. So if you can say, I need this, I want this, you can also say, like, I think this is what's best for the company, I think this is what's best for my life direction, or for anything. And I feel like with the Stingray card, many of you guys are kind of getting a little bit more of this strength within you to have a very strong backbone to express all of these things, especially within the workplace where you may have felt like things have been imbalanced in the past. And this is where I feel like there's kind of some karmic retribution here. I feel like you guys have maybe been used or utilized in a way in which you didn't always get what you deserved back within the workplace. And now I feel like there's some wheels turning where you're doing some healing on on your backbone, on your strength and your boundaries. You're asking for what you need more. And as a result, I think energetically, the universe is starting to match you and give you a blessing or give you more of what you deserve, because you are starting to like tune into yourself and not ignore those things that you feel inside. This moon is also making a trine to Uranus in the North Node in the 10th house. So this very much, it feels like moving up in career directions, having positive and unexpected changes within the career or from some authority figure. So it could be a parent, it could be a boss. I feel like you guys are getting some unexpected blessing. I literally pulled the unexpected blessings card, and I also have the Six of Pentacles and Justice card, which both of these cards are about balancing the giving and receiving. And I feel like because of so many readings that I've had about you have been really focused on you need to ask for more for what you deserve. I feel like this is you finally getting back what you have put in. And this Libra card, this Justice card, is about that balance, that fairness of this being something that is kind of long awaited for you. But it feels like it's, again, unexpected because this is making a trine to Uranus in the 10th, which is a planet that kind of comes out of nowhere and gives us things that we didn't even ask for necessarily, but we have been wanting, or is kind of like the perfect next step for us. So if you notice an opportunity come through, if you notice like money in your bank account or something from some authority figure or business or entity, something like hierarchical, like larger than you, I feel like you'll notice that it's going to come and bestow something upon you or give you an opportunity. So act on it if something does come knocking. The other message that's coming through is a lot of introspection that comes with having the sun in the 12th house and Mercury in the 12th house. There is a lot more like psychological analysis, especially because the sun is also trining Neptune in the 8th, which is the house of psychology. So I think this is a time of this deep reflection. I pulled the Hermit card, and it was next to the Five of Wands. So there is something that I feel like you're ironing out within yourself. Maybe the part of you that has had trouble kind of standing up for yourself or voicing your desires. Like I mentioned, this backbone, because the stingray is all about having strength in the backbone in your life. The Five of Wands is an internal conflict because it initially came out reversed. So there is an internal conflict where different parts of you are trying to get their needs met. There's one part of you that wants to have this backbone and say, this is what I want, this is what I deserve. There's maybe another part of you that could maybe desire for more admiration, or maybe you desire belonging, or not rocking the boat and like people pleasing. And so these needs can at times conflict. And I feel like with this Hermit card, you're going deeply within and doing more of an analysis on the self so that you can discover how to bridge the gap between these needs. And the Frog card is all about that. It's about kind of going within the waters of life and clearing and cleansing things. So you're renewing yourself internally in a deep way. And the Frog is also somebody that recognizes when they are becoming overworked, overburdened, or drained, and then they can put their foot down and say, no, this is what I need, or no, this is what I'm going to do for myself today. And so I think that you guys are becoming more like this because of your ability to tune in with yourself and resolve these parts of you that are in conflict. Lastly, you guys have the Oyster card, which is again a filtration system, another card of cleansing, another card of removing the debris. And the debris is anything in your life that is kind of telling you that you can't ask for what you want, or any of the things that have kept these parts of you separate and not integrated. So the oyster is coming here to clean it up and make it seem less scary, less murky, less confusing about how you can go about this. And it's making things clear and clean and pure. And it's turning difficult situations like a clam into a pearl. So you're using some of these challenges that you've had before and really polishing off your inner world and your personality so that you can, again, attract some of these beautiful blessings that the universe will absolutely be giving you at this time. This full moon is also making a square to Chiron in your 9th house. So there can be some belief systems that you need to dismantle. And I think that's specifically what you're going to be doing with the sun on the 12th while you start meditating or going to therapy or whatever it is that you're doing to have a deeper reflection. This square with Chiron in the 9th is going to say that when you do those things, you might bring up beliefs that you need to change, that have been held from childhood, that have been deeply ingrained in your being. And once you do that, you'll be much more likely to have this cleansing and healing experience that you are looking for, that the soul is looking for. You guys also have Venus and Gemini in the 11th house making a trine to Saturn in the 7th. So this is good for creating relationships, for forming strong connections with others, for really solidifying your existing connections and maybe making new ones. But it's like making new ones that are really substantial. So it's either making more concrete the relationships you already have, or finding people who are really, really quality people. The thing I will warn you against, though, is a square to Neptune in the 8th. This can bring about maybe some unfounded fears or insecurities. And so you might have to face those things, those kind of like ghosts within the closet or skeletons within the closet or whatever. Things that aren't actually there, but that drive you, that you feel like you see or you might experience if you do kind of go further into these relationships and invest further. And so you might have to encounter some of these fears, but ultimately I feel like these relationships are of substance or are going to be made stronger by you encountering some of these things and not making it mean that that's actually going to happen or that relationship isn't for you. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Leo Rising. I hope that resonates. And if it does, please let me know by liking and commenting down below. I read all your comments and they mean a lot to me. If you want an astrology reading from me, I would love to do that for you. You can buy one at willisboom.com or using one of the links down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Virgo Rising. So for you guys, this full moon in Capricorn is happening in your 5th house. And I definitely am getting the sense that you guys are having a lot of passion right now, because this is a full moon in the area of passion with the chart. And it is conjunct Pluto, which is one of the planets of intensity, of obsession, of kind of revving up our engine to get stoked on whatever we are having our sights directed on right now. And some of the first cards I pulled for you guys are 8 of Wands, King of Cups, 4 of Wands. To me, this is you moving quickly and with willpower and excitement towards things that bring you emotional fulfillment. For many of you, this might be some type of romantic relationship. For some of you, this might be some kind of hobby that fulfills you. Whatever it is with the 4 of Wands, it's a feeling of being at peace and at home in the environment that you're in. So if I do this new hobby, it's something that makes me feel more like I'm in my own home and body, and I feel just basically like my truest version of myself. The King of Cups is that ultimate fulfillment that we're getting out of these circumstances. So this could be your relationship with your children. This could be basically anything in your life that you have decided with your own capacity to dedicate energy to dedicate time to work on it, because this is Capricorn energy after all. There is 8 of Wands, like this is quick moving, but it's also deciding, like, I'm going to commit to this thing and see it through with some form of vitality, of excitement. So I definitely feel like whatever you are investing energy into right now, whatever this thing is, whether it's a relationship, a passion, a hobby, anything, it's something that you guys are feeling like really inspired by. And with this King of Cups, I feel like maybe this is something you've been craving emotionally. Like, I want this emotional fulfillment. I want to give myself over to this. And so, yeah, I feel like this is something that has been something you've been calling in. The moon is also making a trine to Uranus in the North Node in your 9th house. So that's why I'm saying I feel like this is something that you've been wanting, that you've been praying for. Like, please, universe, give me something that I can get stoked on. Give me something that I can see as my next step in life to get enlivened by and to be determined with and to put my energy into, whether that is any of those things I mentioned. And so I feel like this trine to Uranus in the 9th house and the North Node there is saying that you're having some change ups in regards to kind of what it is you're looking forward to. Maybe even what you believe is possible for you, your belief systems in general, so that it can align with you achieving this. There is a change up in kind of your vision for the future. And I think that it's going to help, again, really re-inspire you in a way that you've been, I think, craving deeply. The sun is also in the 11th house. So heavy emphasis right now on friendships and your sense of belonging and community. And the sun is making a trine to Neptune in the 7th house. So this is going to facilitate well-being in relationships. Although I do feel like some of the things that I'm seeing here, okay, well, let me go back a little bit. So yes, sun in the 11th, trining Neptune in the 7th is, like I said, is going to facilitate well-being in relationships. It's going to create more harmony where maybe there was a little bit more strife. The downfall of this, or the challenge of this, is that there is a square with Chiron in the 8th house to the sun and moon at this time. And I think this is where some of the anxiety will kind of come from in regards to relationships. Or it could be anything in which you feel vulnerable or insecure. But usually we feel vulnerable and insecure when relating with others. So that might be really brought up at this time in order for you to heal it. I think many of you guys with this ruminate card are overthinking certain situations around relationships, especially with Mercury combust the sun right now in the 11th house. There's just a lot of processing emotions on a mental plane, and Mercury is your ruler, so it's being burned by the sun. It's being overstimulated right now in regards to others. So maybe you are overthinking about others or talking to others a lot, and it's just like it's a little bit too much. Some of you might be taking on a lot of guilt over certain social situations or things kind of out of your hands. But this ruminate card to me is telling me that there's too much like responsibility or mental activity that you're putting on different dynamics, whether that's even concerning you or not. And so this card, I think, is trying to really tell you to take a break from that, especially with the Queen of Swords and Ten of Swords. I feel like you guys are being asked to protect yourself and your boundaries and put a stop to this overthinking and over ruminating. And also just put a stop to people like kind of crossing over boundaries and making you feel like things are maybe your fault when they're not, or making you overthink. I shouldn't say making you, because you are really responsible for that, but there may be certain people in your life that say or do things that kind of make you feel like things are more of a responsibility, more your responsibility than they actually are, or are a bigger deal than they actually are. And so if there's someone that's kind of leading to that in your life, this is your time to take a closer look at that dynamic and put an end to it with certain boundaries within yourself. I think some of you also may be at a point in your life where you're making decisions about something. And maybe this has to do with like what you want to pursue right now. Because as I was mentioning before, you guys do have Venus now in your 10th house. So I think many of you are looking very solidly into the future about what you want to cultivate within your career, what you truly value, what is meaningful to you, and how you want to make more of that in your career, especially because Venus is trining Saturn in the 6th house. So it's like you're willing to put in that daily work and that daily grind, but you want to know for a fact that it's purposeful and meaningful to you before you kind of enter into that time commitment. Venus is also making a square to Neptune in the 7th, so it might be relationships or others and others' influence on you that kind of distorts your clearness. You might not be as certain about what you want in your career because of other people talking and other opinions. And I feel like you need to make certain decisions, and this might be where the ruminating is coming in, is like everyone is telling me what to think, everyone is influencing me in this way, and it's making me overthink and overstimulate. But I think that you guys need to get really clear with yourself and check in with yourself in order to make this decision. I have the Two of Pentacles, which is a juggling card, the Judgment, and the Knight of Swords. All of these to me are indicating a need to decide and commit to something. And you may have multiple things that you're having to choose between. Like with this Two of Pentacles, you may have not a really like clear answer about the way forward. This Knight of Swords to me is saying that you may decide from almost like impulsive place and not have everything planned out. That can sometimes be okay, but with this trine to Saturn, I think you're really being asked to make sure that you have like reasoning and rationale that is going to benefit you long term in order to make this decision. Don't rush and don't be immature and overly emotional in this decision making process. That's going to be really important here. The last card I have is the Lizard card. And I feel like this card is saying that you are shedding some kind of skin, and this was next to the Queen of Swords and Ten of Swords. So I feel like it's maybe shedding part of you that has been overly like reliant on others, or maybe too much of a people pleaser, something in regards to others, because the Queen of Swords really reminds me of somebody who has really strong personal boundaries. And next to the Ten of Swords, it's putting an end to maybe your boundaries being crossed, and now embodying this healthy Queen of Swords energy where you're willing to kind of lay down the law for yourself. And this is important for you to make this decision so that you don't overthink and allow others to kind of get caught up inside your head, which can be just something that Virgos struggle with in general, is just this overthinking. So you just need to make sure that your voice from within can be heard and tune out the voice of others if they become too strong. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Virgo Rising. If that resonates, please let me know by liking, commenting down below. If you want a reading from me, you can always book one at my website, willisboom.com, or in the link in the description box down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. And up next we have Libra Rising. So for you guys, this full moon in Capricorn is happening in your 4th house of home and family, and it is conjunct Pluto, as well as making a trine to Uranus in the North Node in your 8th house. So what's going on, guys? I feel like you guys are going through a lot. I pulled some cards, and I will say that a full moon in your 4th house can be highly emotionally charged. And with this trine with Uranus in the 8th house, I feel like it's releasing a lot of maybe kind of negative emotions, challenging emotions, ultimately to liberate you. But I'm getting the sense of like kind of a lot of anxiety from this, maybe even heartbreak, worry, conflict. Like I'm getting like some of these cards, man, most of them are tiring. And so, yeah, I feel like this is going to be extremely emotional. And I feel like some of you guys might notice that you're having to walk away from situations that do kind of exhaust you. I pulled the 4 of Swords, 9 of Wands, and 8 of Cups, just like that. So I feel like you're checking in with yourself emotionally, realizing this situation is not emotionally sustainable for me anymore. I need a second to myself to really think about this. And then I realized like I can't sustain this. I can't keep going with this 9 of Wands. And so I ultimately leave whatever this is. So I'm super curious like what this is for a lot of you guys. But I feel like it's almost something that triggers things from your past. I pulled 2 animal cards. I got the mouse and the fish, both cards that tend to worry, to be overstimulated, to look and focus on the small details of things, or get caught up in the crowd and like kind of like what everyone else is doing. And that is actually something that came up with the fish and the choice card. This choice card is talking about like kind of feeling like you have lots of different choices and you don't know what to do, or like other people's opinions are getting in your way. And this full moon is making a square to Chiron in the 7th house of relationships. So this might be where you're just like, you want to make an ending or a change or walk away from someone or something, but other people are influencing you and you're kind of getting caught up in your head and you're not sure what to do. And you have a choice, but it almost feels like you don't, or like you're being too much influenced that you don't even know what you would choose, or that you have too many choices that it's just overwhelming. And so with this square with Chiron on the 7th, I feel like this is going to bring up painful experiences in relationships. Again, things that might trigger your wounding from the past. But I feel like ultimately with this 8 of Cups, you are walking away from something. You are deciding that you can't put up or deal with something emotionally any longer. And so you're just going to move on from it. And a trine to Uranus in the 8th house, this moon trining Uranus in the 8th house, can bring about this change quite suddenly. The 8th house is where we are dying, or where we have endings and new beginnings, kind of a rebirth cycle. And so I feel like some of you guys may experience some of these changes really quickly or unexpectedly. But then I feel like it's also mixed with anxiety of like, should I do that? Should I not do that? I don't know. And I feel like you ultimately will decide to do it. So yeah, I feel like you guys, I'm getting the Three of Swords and the Five of Swords. So this to me is like, you are having some, I feel like, heartbreak from any kind of conflict that's going on in your life. If you are having conflict in relationships, it's really taking its emotional toll on you. And I think that's what might be leading you to just decide to like be done with something or someone, because there's some kind of situation that I feel like you've been in that hasn't been like, you haven't seen eye to eye with a person, or some kind of situation that hasn't treated you fairly or treated you right, and it's like, it's just been this constant source of conflict or this emotional difficulty, and it's been leading to a lot of heartbreak and pain. And I feel like with the Mouse card, it's like you've been really tunnel visioned, focused on this thing that has been draining your energy to other areas of your life. And so I don't know who needs to hear this, but there's something that you are walking away from in regards to this situation or this person, where you're like, I cannot be heartbroken like this anymore. I cannot keep putting energy into this anymore, because it's taking away from my well-being and these really important areas of my life, which may be career, especially right now for you with the sun in the 10th house. There's a heavy focus on your career and what you want to achieve out in the world. And so if there's a relationship or dynamic that's pulling you away from that success and achievement, it's time to really reflect on if that's what you really want to have in your life or not. The sun in the 10th house, again, is going to help you see more clearly what you want to do in your career. And it's also trining Neptune in the 6th house. So it's helping you get clear about what you can do each day from a place of inspiration, how you want to be of service, how you want to show up to the world. And I feel like you're able to be re-inspired by this idea of helping others. But if you are drowning in your sorrows or drowning in emotional challenge, which this full moon could do, it's going to ultimately take you away from that larger purpose. You guys also have Venus and Gemini in the 9th house, which is making a trine to Saturn in the 5th house. So this could be you having some realizations, I feel like, about what is ultimately going to bring you more happiness, what you believe is going to aid you in your path in life and what won't. However, Venus is also squaring Neptune in the 6th, so there may be times in which you have trouble kind of realistically approaching how to go about being super happy and cultivating those passions that you're looking for. I feel like you have the benefit right now of like having joyful things that you can invest your time into, whether that's travel or hobbies or things of that nature. But with the square to Neptune in the 6th, it's like, how am I realistically going to make time for this and my other responsibilities? How am I going to juggle all these things? That might kind of be unclear at this time. Not to not invest in those areas, but that it might be not as easy to manage in a practical way as you might hope. So that is essentially what I'm seeing. I feel like there's a lot going on. Let me pull one card if there's any kind of advice that the universe wants to give you, because I feel like this is kind of leaving you hanging a little bit. Okay, control. I feel like this card even looks very similar to this choice card. It's this element of realizing that you have the decision within your hands. You have the ability to improve your life and your mindset. So you can cut somebody out. You can feel and process emotions in a way that's very liberating. You can view situations positively. You can decide to make the most out of something instead of focusing on the negative. And so this all is within your control. And so if you are suffering, you are maybe allowing yourself to prolong suffering. Realize what you have control over and what you don't, and take control over it so that you can improve your life and your sense of well-being. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Libra Rising. If it resonates, please let me know by liking, commenting down below. If you want an astrology reading from me, you can always get one from willsboom.com or using the link down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next I have Scorpio Rising. So for you guys, this full moon in Capricorn is happening in your 3rd house. conjunct Pluto. So I think that you guys are going through some really massive transformation in regards to the way that you think and communicate. I think that you guys have probably been undergoing this for a while, but you are really stepping into an era where you are almost like relinquishing with this Death and the Six of Cups card. I feel like you're almost like relinquishing this, like I see two things. First of all, like a more naiveness that you may have had when you were young. Like, oh, I can like do whatever makes me happy and passionate, and like maybe just like I can follow my dreams, and like that's like how life works, and like that's enough. And I feel like some of you guys may be realizing that there's like an ending and a transformation to the way that you're thinking that's becoming much more, with this Capricorn energy, kind of like earthy and reliable. Like, okay, this is who I have to be to achieve these goals. I can't just like wish it. I can't just want it. I can't just, put in a little bit of effort. I have to be like strict. I have to be consistent. I have to be the parent almost over my mind and over my energy and over my time in order to actually make these goals happen. So I feel like you guys are becoming more reliable within yourself, to yourself, and to the word that you have. With this black egg, this is about speaking your truth. And so I feel like you are almost like becoming really cutthroat almost in the way that you think and communicate with yourself or with others, or both, where you are only speaking what's true to yourself, or to others. You're only really facing like what is truly going on, and you're not allowing yourself to lie to yourself or comfort yourself in ways that are not honest, that are not going to get you where you want to go. It's like the sun in Cancer, which is in your, the sun is in Cancer. What? I'm just so confused. Sorry, I was reading the wrong chart for a second there, but everything I'm saying is still right. The sun in Cancer, which is in the 9th house, is ultimately going to want to kind of nurture you and concentrate on like what you feel and what's best for you. But I feel like there's a hard ass energy to this of like, no, I'm going to make my mind solid. I'm going to become resolute. I'm going to do this no matter what. I'm going to become reliable. I'm going to be so honest with myself and others that I'm facing the reality of the situation with all the obstacles, with all the bumps, and being real with myself. Like, am I ill prepared? Am I ready? Am I actually doing as much as I could? Am I being flexible enough? Am I really stepping up enough? Am I changing the things I need to change? And I feel like you guys are going to honestly face some of these aspects of yourself, and do that inner work right now, specifically on the mindset and the way that you talk to yourself and others to make this happen. Because the Cancer in the 9th house is going to, bring that nurturing quality, but it's also going to help you connect more on an emotional level to what you want to believe, to what is going to be like in your highest good and your highest divine interest. And I feel like you're going to receive a lot of support from the universe, especially because, the sun is also making a trine to Neptune in the 5th. So there's a lot of, I feel like, emotional fulfillment that you will ultimately get from becoming disciplined with your mind, from saying, I am going to do these things. I am going to be honest with myself and almost like blunt with myself. And this is going to help me transform my beliefs, and it's going to actually bring me more joy, bring me more pleasure. It's going to let me bask in the things that are truthfully going well, because you're able to truthfully see what's not going well. And so I feel like you guys, again, are being supported by the universe in this way. This full moon, or this moon in particular, with Pluto, is also making a trine to Uranus in the 7th house, the Uranus in the North Node. So you may have some instability within relationships that are coming through, some changes or shakeups or breakthroughs in relationships that may happen as a result of your honest communication or your cutthroat mindset and attitude. So This could be you making decisions to do things differently, and because of that, your relationships change. Like if you decide you want to move, or that you want to dedicate more time to your work, or that you want to do different hobbies, you may just quite literally not invest in certain relationships as much because of those as a consequence. Or you might have different ways of behaving, like I'm gonna have this boundary, or I believe this way, and because of that, certain relationship dynamics are shifting and altering. This full moon is also making a square to Chiron in your 6th house. So there may be some insecurities that still come in, specifically around work, where you might feel like things are not necessarily living up to your potential. The 6th house can be really like this house where we're putting in the grind and not always getting the results that we want. And that might be what is kind of the impetus for you looking at things very honestly within yourself, because you're like, okay, well, if I really was doing things the right way, maybe I would have more results in my work, more results for these efforts and the level of responsibility I've taken on. I feel like you might be kind of exhausted with your current situation, overburdened with this 10 of Wands, where you're like, I don't know if I can just keep going in the same way in my work. Like something's got to change, and that causes you with the Hierophant to go within and reflect. And then I feel like you with the Phoenix and 8 of Pentacles are going to recommit to your work in a new way. With the Phoenix, you're rising from the ashes of your previous self, so you're almost willing to leave behind this outdated way of thinking, or this stagnant way of thinking, and burn that part of yourself to the ground and rededicate yourself as this new version of yourself. So maybe the work doesn't change that much, but something internally is going to change. Or maybe maybe your mindset is shifting in a huge way, or maybe you're going to approach your work in a new way. Whatever it is, you're going to double down on whatever you're doing from some type of new perspective, and that is hopefully going to lead to the result that you do want in some time. You guys also have Venus and Gemini in the 8th house right now, making a trine to Saturn in the 4th house, and a square to Neptune in the 5th. So this can bring up definitely a lot of things in relationships in particular, where you are realizing maybe who is here to support you, who is here to kind of help solidify where you're at emotionally, and who is here to help you maybe evolve as a soul, whether that's comfortable or not. I feel like you might start to have some of those realizations. But with the square to the 5th, I feel like you may not fully see clearly what relationships are going to ultimately bring you the most joy or not. You may feel more like triggered or weighed down by certain relationships, or you might feel like certain people are security blankets, and then this perception might not actually be as clear as the reality of it. Let me pull a card on that, because I feel like I'm not explaining that as well as I could. So what do you want to say about Venus? I pulled the Lovers card in reverse. So maybe for many of you, this is really about self-love. And with the square to Neptune in the 5th, maybe there is some kind of like flashiness or image of what you think self-love should look like or should be. And maybe that is part of what is like you're not seeing clearly, is like what self-love actually is. And I was reading about the 5th house last night, and about how it's like our greatest version of self-expression. And it's all about seeing oneself in the mirror through our creations. So seeing ourselves reflected in our children, seeing ourselves reflected in our art and our hobbies and the things that we enjoy to do, and we make them and bring them out to the world. It's a way for us to actually get to know ourselves and get to the core of ourselves. And so I feel like there may be a misunderstanding kind of about what self-love is actually about. And I feel like there's something that's like really practical that you're working on emotionally, that you're processing and all of this. But I feel like there's, again, something with this self-love thing that's actually kind of a miss in your behavior that I think will unfold or show itself over time. So I don't necessarily think you need to worry about it, but it is helpful to know that there's some element missing. There's some element that's not quite in your vision, and that's for a reason. Maybe just for you to work on what's right in front of you, to do the practical emotional work, going to therapy, journaling, whatever that looks like for you. And then like the self-love journey, which may involve some brand new facets of yourself, some brand new behaviors may just be coming at a later date. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Scorpio Rising. If that resonates, let me know by liking and commenting down below. If you want an astrology reading, you can always get one from me at willisbloom.com or using the link in my description box down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. Up next, we have Sagittarius Rising. This full moon in Capricorn is happening along your 2nd and 8th house axis, with the moon in Capricorn conjunct Pluto in your 2nd house. So I feel like you guys may be in this interesting feeling of feeling like you are reevaluating your value or your meaning in certain situations or within yourself. There could also be a heavy drive for cultivating more security or finances in your life that you feel almost like obsessed with creating something like this. And especially with the sun in the 8th house, this can be a time in which we do feel more insecure or unsettled. And so there might be a heavier focus on creating that sense of security in the external environment by having a job, by having money, by having a home, or whatever it is, so that you feel like those parts of you that are more vulnerable with the sun moving through the 8th house can have some kind of like barrier or cage or like structure to be settled within. And so I think it's going to help you feel maybe less vulnerable in this more kind of tender time to focus on these finances or, you know, possessions or whatever it is that you're trying to accumulate to generate security. It's going to help you on the emotional level of security as well. So that's what I feel like you guys are really pushing towards, especially because this moon is making a trine to Uranus in the North Node in the 6th house. So there is a desire here to have a change up in your responsibilities or your work in order to get the things that you are looking for that will make you feel secure and stable and also confident in who you are. Like, you have a lot of value. So maybe getting a job that will make you feel like you have purpose, like you have meaning, or getting a job that is helping you increase your finances will give you more confidence in where you are at in this stage of your life. Any kind of responsibility, any kind of service towards others is where you are going to see kind of that mix up or that change, and that will ultimately help you feel more valuable, more secure, more meaningful, more confident, and richer as well. As I mentioned, the sun is in the vulnerable part of the 8th house, and it is making a trine to Neptune in your 4th house. So you guys might be especially more vulnerable around home and family situations. Like, you really want to make an investment in a home, but you're not totally sure. Or maybe you did just recently invest in that, but it's like there's a lot up in the air in regards to that. Like, you don't know how you're exactly going to move forward. Or maybe you're just having a lot of emotions come to the surface in general. It could be around home, around family, around the place of your living, where some of these insecurities or vulnerabilities could come more to the surface. But ultimately, I think it's here to help you process a lot, and I think it's going to be a really healing time for those emotions to come up, especially because the sun is in Cancer, which allows us to process what we are going through. The difficult part of this full moon is that it is squaring Chiron in the 6th house. So, in the 5th house. So there may be ways in which you feel like your normal lightheartedness is absent. The normal pleasures and joys out of life, like your normal friend group or your normal social setting, or, you know, your normal kind of like amount of time that you can dedicate to the hobbies that you usually like to do. I feel like those things are really lacking right now, or feel like a sore spot in your life, especially because I pulled the 5 of Cups and 3 of Cups. So this is like, I am lacking my normal social support or having drinks and having fun. Like the playfulness, the lightheartedness of life feels like it's missing, or it's lacking in some way. But I pulled the Hidden Blessings card. So what that means to me is that while this can be painful right now, there's actually a huge blessing coming out of this circumstance. So maybe not having your normal social setting or the normal things that you would like to do for fun and lightheartedness will make you become more introspective and look at different parts of your life that you wouldn't have had the space to look at otherwise. There is something that is being born from this lack that is actually really going to be the fruitful ground for you to plant positive seeds in the future. So if you're feeling quite frustrated or sensitive to the fact that you don't necessarily have your normal support system, whether that's family or friends or activities like pleasures, whatever it is, this like the universe is almost like consciously eliminating or pausing that area of your life to make room for something maybe more serious, but that is going to help you in the future, especially concerning like finances and security. I feel like that's a really good area of focus for you because of this full moon in the second house. So maybe that lack of a good time will help you create more financial success later down the road, which will allow you to have more enjoyment of what you do actually get to do later on, because you realize that you have all of your needs met first before you're going out and having fun. You guys also have Venus and Gemini in your 7th house. This is generally really good for relationships. So even if you don't have maybe your normal support system, the relationships that are close and are chosen, I feel like will ultimately be going well. Like there is a solidity here, especially with this trine to Saturn in the 3rd house. I feel like there is a strong, practical, like relationship in your life or relationships, and based on really like good communication, really realistic mindsets, like people working together, and things going well in this accord. And I think that's why I pulled the 4 of Wands and the King of Swords. Just really good communication between you guys, good boundaries, understanding between each other that's creating almost like a celebration or an enjoyment of one another. And with the Wheel of Fortune as well, I feel like this relationship is helping you kind of turn things in your favor so that you feel like things are going better in your life, things are going more positively because this relationship or relationships are really working out. However, Venus is also making a square to Neptune in the 4th, so there could be some confusion about this relationship and the home life or the family life, or like this could be confusion in regards to relationships within the home and family. So maybe you have like, let's say a fiance, and you and your fiance are doing super, super well, but then you are staying with his family for a week, and there's just kind of some weird mishaps and confusing communication with his family. So that is kind of like what I see with this Neptune square, is that there's some confusion around the home family dynamic, but yet there is also a lot of solidity and happiness in a relationships that are existing. So kind of a mixed bag there, but I feel like huge focus on finances, on getting your responsibilities and ducks in a row, and the relationships that like the normal fun and joy and pleasures of life might feel like they're lacking a bit, but you are creating really strong relationships and bonds in your life right now, and things are just kind of working themselves out in time. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Sag Rising. I hope that resonates. If it does, please comment down below so I can know, or give a like to this video, or both. And if you want an astrology reading from me, you can get one from willowsbloom.com or using the link in the description box down below. Have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Capricorn Rising. So for you guys, this full moon is happening in your 1st house, conjunct Pluto. Really big energy for you guys, and I'm excited. I think that this is going to be really good to help you guys really get down to the bottom of things in your life. Like a lot of truth bombs, I think you're going to be like okay with. You know, I feel like you guys are ultimately going to see things in a piercing and honest way. And I pulled the King of Swords, and that's what partially makes me think that, especially because Pluto is a planet that does not beat around the bush, and you are a Saturn ruled sign that also doesn't really beat around the bush. So there is this ability to get down to the core of what is going on in your life and be extremely honest about things. So I feel like you guys may also be really inspired at this full moon because it is making a trine to Uranus in the north and the fifth house, which with the Page of Wands is like this spark of creative energy that is being birthed within you at this full moon. So the truth that you are then able to see about yourself, about the world, about life, that truth is somehow linked with you guys then having an idea, a vision, an excitement that is like kind of lulling you forward into a better life, a new beginning, a new chapter. And I feel like it's coming again from a very honest place. It's not like you're deluding yourself. It's not like you are unaware and you're running from things. I feel like you're inspired. You are really inspired. However, it's going to be very important for you with Pluto involved here to be very honest also about what you have figured out and what you don't have figured out. And as this is a Capricorn full moon, focus on how to make things very practical and ironed out, which is great because you have Venus and Gemini in the sixth house making a trine to Saturn in the second. Very good for becoming more disciplined and ironing things out in terms of work and kind of what the next steps are regarding money and also even relationships, and how people can help you achieve your goals. So you have support from the universe. And I think it's important for you guys to be practical and, again, honest with what you have figured out and what you don't. So instead of just leaping into things without a plan, maybe asking yourself, like, not why am I doing this so much? Because I think you already kind of get that with this moon and Pluto. I feel like you kind of know why. You are inspired. You get it. You're honest with yourself. You see it. But instead of the why, it's the what. Like, now what? What are the steps realistically that I have to do to go after this thing? And is this exactly what I want? Or do I want a combination of things? You know what I mean? Getting clearer about the exact vision of what it is you want and how you can achieve that. I think that is kind of what the missing ingredient is here. You guys also have the Sun in the seventh house making a trine to Neptune in the third house. And I pulled the Two of Cups. I really feel like you guys are having some kind of potential for a relationship here. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, although Two of Cups is ripe for that. If you are already in a partnership, this can indicate things going really well and communicating very clearly and in a loving way. If you're not already in a partnership, this can indicate, again, someone coming in, especially through a social setting, some networking, some kind of event where you can chat with different types of people. I can see you really hitting it off with somebody. And again, it could be some kind of soulmate energy where it's someone that you end up really aligning with as a friend and you become friends long term. Or it could be someone that inspires you to help you get on track with this creative vision and they help you get the next steps going, and then that's that person in your life for that event. Or maybe it's someone that you end up working with, or maybe it is a partner. I don't know, but I really see someone coming in here and being an aid, especially creatively, like opening up your mind to the avenues of what is a potential for you, a possible for you, because I feel like you're already kind of inspired, but there are some kinks you haven't worked out, and I feel like it's through others and through conversing with others that you're going to fill in these gaps. I also feel like with this Breathe card, there is some element here of kind of allowing things to unfold according to their own timeline. I feel like while for the message for everyone has kind of been having more control and more discipline and really shaping our lives and stepping into our masculine, guiding our energy and all this and that. I feel like for you guys, you are Capricorn Rising. You know, you already have this energy. You already probably do this to an extent in your day-to-day life. And so me telling you to be more of what you already are is not necessarily beneficial. I feel like what this is trying to say with this Breathe card is that you're the true gift of this full moon is not being more disciplined, because you are disciplined. You are a hard worker. It's being honest about where you are and what you need to cultivate. It's the truth and seeing things clearly that is going to get you far. The other element with this Breathe card is allowing things to be inspired allowing things to be natural, allowing things to flow and hit at the right times. Because if you try to control or force things in timing and have it all figured out before it's meant to be figured out, then I think it could be awkward or unfulfilling. And so I feel like while this is encouraging you to work with others and get more details and plans, there's also some element that is out of your control in regards to knowing what to do. So it's kind of the opposite message I've been telling everyone. I'm like, this is in your control. You can dictate your own reality, da, 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 da. But I feel like what you really need to hear right now is that you are always in control. You are always trying to align things the way that you want them. And you should still continue to do that, but also recognize when to stop pushing, when to allow, when to let things flow, when it's not the right time, when it's not ripe. Because if you try to kind of force the hand, again, I feel like it's just going to feel like you're moving upstream, and it's going to ultimately have a less fulfilling outcome. The challenging aspect of this full moon is that it's making a square to Chiron in your 4th house. So there can be some family things that come up, or issues related to the home, or issues related to just old kind of dense emotions that haven't been processed, that may be quite sensitive to you, that can be triggered at this full moon that you're needing to process. And so I think that this square can really bring about some of those emotions that you've bottled up related to that area, to one of those areas of your life. And it can make you feel maybe more insecure or uncertain about the path ahead in terms of home, family, or just how you're feeling. And especially because if you do meet somebody new, I feel like I pulled the raccoon card. I feel like what could come up with this Chiron square is like not wanting to show yourself fully. The raccoon wears, like, it seems like it's wearing a mask, right? It seems like it's hiding in some way, and it's underneath the 2 of Cups. So I feel like it doesn't matter what kind of relationship this is, there may be part of you that's like scared to show the raw and like naked, vulnerable version of yourself, which is what Chiron in the 4th can feel like. And so I feel like this full moon is encouraging you to face that head on and truly show people your cards, show them for all of your good and your bad days, all of it. And once that person loves you and accepts you anyway, you'll realize it's safe to open up. It's safe to be vulnerable and to show your full self. And again, with Venus and Gemini in the 6th house, making a trine to Saturn in the 2nd, I do think that this relationship could somehow be work-related, or you might find that your work relationships are really benefiting you right now and adding to your stability, or maybe your finances from work are just making you feel much more secure. However, Venus is also making a square to Neptune in the 3rd, so you might find yourself almost like daydreaming about what else is out there. And it could also affect work communication. So while your relationships might feel solid overall, you might have mishaps in communication and misunderstandings that can lead to just more confusion, which is kind of typical with Neptune. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Capricorn. I hope that resonates. Please let me know by liking, commenting down below. If you want an astrology reading, you can get one from willowsboom.com or in the link down below, and I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have my beautiful Aquarius Risings. So for you guys, this full moon is happening along your 12th and 6th house axis with the moon in Capricorn, conjunct Pluto in the 12th house. So this moon is also making a trine to Uranus and the North Node in your 4th house. A lot of deep emotional, like inward reflection can happen right now. And I actually feel like it's going to be something that's expedited because Pluto is here, which is giving you an ability to dig into the reservoirs of your unconscious, the things that have been pushed and shoved down, that have been ignored, that have been unseen. I feel like you're willing right now to look at them. With the Chariot next to the Hermit and the Ace of Wands, I feel like you're using your willpower to look at these things. You're like, I am finally willing to examine these parts of myself, and then it's moving quickly. It's something that's going to come up out of the surface, almost bursting. And this Hermit card is like, I'm bringing light to that darkness. I'm seeing the parts of myself that I haven't seen before. And what happens when you bring light to the darkness is this Ace of Wands moment, where everything becomes illuminated, where your life becomes inspiring, where you see how you can take these dark moments and make them into some of your biggest assets and your biggest joys, and something full of life can grow out of them. And so I feel like you guys are almost getting like an emotional renewal with this trine with Uranus and North Node in your fourth house, where you are facing some things and then are emotionally reborn because of your ability to face and accept some of these things for what they are. And I feel like you're owning these shadows. You're owning these fears. You're not pushing them away. You're not, running from them. I feel like there is that true ownership and integration that then allows you to become a whole and complete self, which is so much more emotionally satisfying in life. You also have the sun in the sixth house, making a trine to Neptune in the second. So I feel like you have this whole other thing going on within the workplace. In particular, I feel like with the sun trining Neptune, you might feel really inspired by work, but I'm also seeing, oh my gosh, my eye is like going crazy today. I just won't stop twitching. I'm also seeing that you guys, I think, are in a stage of questioning. So we've already kind of seen that with the moon in the 12th. You are questioning some things about your internal world. And I got the answers within cards, so that makes a lot of sense. But I also feel like you're questioning things with your career. And I think that it's trying to say, the answers within cards trying to say that you actually know what you want. But I think that you're a little bit nervous about it, or you have anxiety, because I pulled the Eight of Swords and the Rabbit card. So I feel like some of you guys are maybe considering certain options, or you're considering like your current job or what you're currently investing in. The word investing is really strong here. The Knight of Pentacles and Seven of Pentacles. These are some of the most hardworking, steadfast cards where you are truly investing your time and sweat equity into something. So this, the Eight of Swords is in between here. So it's like you're having anxiety about something that you're choosing to invest in. Maybe it's like you're choosing between one thing or another, or you're investing in both and you don't know how you're going to do both of them. I'm not really sure exactly what this is. I think maybe you'll know for yourself, but there's something around work, your work options, what you're dedicating your efforts to, even if that's like a partner and a family, or or if it's something else. I do think for many of you it's going to be specifically like work related, but it doesn't have to be. But it's something like, I feel like you guys are truly in it and you are dedicating yourself to it. It's not like you're pulling out of it, but it's almost like there's some anxiety or uncertainty about that path. Because the sun in the sixth is like, okay, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to wake up every day and dedicate myself to this task. And then trine to Neptune is really positive in terms of inspiration and influence. Like, I feel like you're inspired to like make more money. You're inspired to have more security. And that might be what you're kind of juggling or looking at. Like, okay, I'm going to continue to work my 9 to 5, but I kind of want to start this thing on the side. I kind of want to do this other thing that could make me more money. And it's like an exciting thing, but for some reason, it's producing anxiety in you as well. And I think it's because this full moon is squaring Chiron in the 3rd house, which is related to like anxiety in terms of the mind, like way too much overthinking, questioning of oneself. And it's like, instead of just being inspired, which the energy is there for that, you're adding on this whole extra layer of like worrying about the future, worrying about if you can do something or not. And this Eight of Swords and Rabbit card to me is like having your energy kind of be dispersed and your eyes moving in all these directions, when truly the answers are within. If you can shut that mind down and meditate and go within, which is perfect for this full moon in your 12th house, you will see that you have all the answers that you need about how you can make that money or what the extra investment would be. Because I do kind of feel like it's 2 things that you want to do with this here, or maybe 2 options that you're choosing from. But I'm getting more the sense of like no, I want to do two things. I want to actually invest myself in two things and not just choose between them. So yeah, I feel like you maybe have a job or you have something that you already have going for you and you want to add on another thing, and maybe that's where the choice is, like, do I want to do this thing or not? Or maybe you have multiple choices about what that other thing could be. Regardless, I think you're kind of getting what I'm saying here. There is this unnecessary anxiety, but I think it's just kind of playing out in the stars. Like, we can see you were just kind of meant to have this anxiety more so that you could face it by going within, and you're already doing that right now. You're already facing these certain aspects of yourself, and so this is just going to help you develop that tool of self-reflection even further. You guys also have Venus and Gemini in the 5th house making a trine to Saturn in the 1st. So I feel like this is, again, another indication of doing some kind of hobby or something else that makes you excited, that feels also like it's moving your life forward, and it also feels like it's responsible and going to add to your authority or notoriety or life experience and kind of help level you up in some way, but also bring you joy and maybe bring you money or great connections or whatever. I feel like it's something that's really going to benefit you. So I see why you're having this conundrum. Venus is also squaring Neptune in the 2nd. So that's where it's like, how is this going to work? What's going to bring me more money? Or is this going to even make sense financially? Is this practical? Is this going to give me security or not? Do I have the resources to manage all of this? Like, those are the kinds of questions that can come up. And you might not have all of the answers right away, but if you are going to get kind of the next step, it's going to come again from this time where you are reflecting inward and intuitively navigating this period of time, because that is what a 12th house moon is calling you to do. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Aquarius. This seems exciting. It feels like an addition to your life. And I hope that you please do take this time out to connect with yourself, because your answers are there waiting for you, and you just need to actually go there. So if it resonates, please like and comment down below. I love reading your comments. And if you want an astrology reading from me, you can book it at willowsboom.com or using the link in the description box down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, and last but certainly not least, we have my beautiful Pisces risings. For you all, this full moon in Capricorn will happen in your 11th and 5th house axis, which means that the moon in Capricorn is going to be conjunct Pluto in your 11th house of friendships and group dynamics. Interestingly enough, it's also making a trine to Uranus in the North Node in the 3rd house. So I feel like you guys are having some breakthroughs in terms of your, it could be two layers. First of all, it could be in terms of like what you realize you want for your future, and you're having all these brand new ideas come to you, and you're getting excited and having new goals and plans and feeling really kind of obsessed about what's coming in for you and very emotionally involved. Or alternatively, it could be that your relationships are undergoing this transformation, and your sense of belonging, your community, your network, your friends especially, and you're having these amazing conversations and new ideas and ways of relating to other people, or even networking with brand new types of people. So it could be either one of those, but something new in that regard is coming to a head, because it is a full moon, which is about some kind of reward or ending or culmination. And so it's something that has been kind of in the works for some time now. And so, yeah, I feel like you guys are entering into a phase of maybe more stability in some sense amongst your life. And the reason is I say that is because I pulled the Sun, the 7 of Wands, and the Queen of Pentacles. So I almost feel like you've become really aware of what hasn't been working with the 7 of Wands, of what has been going wrong in your networking or going wrong in your friend group, or maybe what's been missing from your goals. And it's like this awareness around that is leading you to greater financial success with this Queen of Pentacles. Maybe also a greater sense of independence. Like, okay, I don't need that friend group, or I don't need this network. It's not benefiting me. So I'm going to move more over here. I'm going to invest my energy more into myself. This definitely has a sense of community though, so I don't think it's going to feel like an isolation. I feel like it's an independence, of a non-reliance on people or things or whatever that are not helpful, and maybe even a greater reliance on those things that are. that will help build you up to this Queen of Pentacles status, to where you have the money or the success or the goals, the objectives, the next steps for achieving the success that you're looking for. And I definitely think a lot of this is going to come through your relationships, through talking to people, through getting the right ideas. I think you're going to communicate very clearly and in a way that's going to help you, again, see where the loose ends are, see where the things aren't working are, and pick apart or pick away, like kind of like removing weeds from a garden. It's like you're going to remove that friendship or remove this way of doing things. I almost see it a little bit more objectively. I'm not seeing very much emotions here with the Sun, the Queen of Pentacles, Seven of Wands. It feels more like, I don't know, if this is specifically around work, I don't see this as being super emotional. It's like, okay, that wasn't working. Now I'm going to do this thing. Although I am getting another message that is emotional here. So maybe it will somehow tie together. Okay, let me talk about the rest of the astrology. You guys also have the Sun in the 5th house making a trine to Neptune in the 1st house. This is a very, very creative time, and this is kind of where I see the emotions come in. I pulled the 7 of Cups, which is about like one of the highest sources of our creative vision and inspiration. It's us feeling like we have lots of options or lots of brand new ideas, lots of things that feel really exciting to us to pursue. And so I feel like you guys are just being so imaginative. You're almost being like flooded with images about the next right step that you can go in to bring you more joy and more emotional satisfaction in your life. And that's why I have the 10 of Cups, because that's what the Sun in the 5th house is. It's what next step can I take to feel even more like myself, to feel even more like I'm expressing my greatest, most highest version of myself, to feel like I'm connecting with the best kinds of people I'd love to meet, to feel like I'm having lots of social fun, to feel like I'm pursuing the hobbies or traveling the places I want to go to. I feel like you're feeling this inspiration and asking yourself what you need to do to achieve this level of happiness with the 10 of Cups, where you're overflowing, you have an abundance of satisfaction out of life. That it's almost like it overflows and extends to others because you have just so much to give. The challenging part about this full moon is that it's making a square to Chiron in your 2nd house of finances. So there can be some sense of insecurity around money. So maybe you're getting all these amazing ideas and you feel really emotionally fulfilled by pursuing them. You are able to spot maybe weaknesses in your plan, and you're able to achieve greater stability and success. But there's something still in regards to finances, even though you might, with this Queen of Pentacles, get more money. I feel like you're not actually feeling safe and comfortable and confident in those finances. The Queen of Pentacles generally indicates feeling comfortable with that. But I feel like with this Chiron in the 2nd house, there is something there. There's some insecurity there around the money that is coming in for you. So maybe you're making more, or you have these ideas that can help you make more, but it's like you don't believe that you can hold on to it. You don't believe that you can manage it, or you don't believe that you'll just keep getting that money again and again. I don't know, that doesn't have to be those specific insecurities, but there's something coming in around your sense of stability and security, especially around material possessions, material wealth, that you might feel like you're not as confident in. And so this full moon is trying to help you push past those barriers that you're setting for yourself, maybe financial barriers, and help you recognize that you have so much worth within yourself and that you absolutely do deserve those things. You absolutely can have those things. Let me read what this card says. You've created barriers or defense mechanisms that may be preventing emotional or mental healing. The universe is eagerly waiting and willing to assist you with your healing, but you may not be receiving the healing you desire. Something seems to be blocking or hindering your restoration. Just think about this, especially in terms of financial success. Something seems to be blocking or hindering your financial success. The obstacle may be a protective measure you've put in place to keep your heart from further harm. The shield may seem necessary and logical. However, it's preventing the healing light being sent to you from penetrating and healing your pain. So this is a defense mechanism, which is a response to being wronged, hurt, rejected, abandoned, or abused. So if you have, I mean, this could be relationships, but I'm really getting the sense that for a lot of you, it's around your confidence and your security and your finances, especially. And so I feel like many of you may actually, maybe it's conscious, maybe it's not, but many of you may actually have these barriers or money stories going on. So if I make a lot of money, people won't like me. If remember that last time I got the money, I blew it all and I'm a bad person and I am a spender and that's just how I am. It's like whatever you have defined yourself as through the past, whatever fears you may have developed even unconsciously around money and around being wealthy and around being secure and confident, I feel like all those things are being presented right now for you to overcome. And hopefully with this moon conjunct Pluto, we're able to see with so much clarity through the support of our relationships and our network what kind of money stories we've been playing out that are really unnecessary. The last card that I have is the Zebra card, which I feel like is this about you really, this is about you really owning your authenticity within this network, within this friend group, owning what is unique about you, and that will help override the insecurities that comes from Chiron in the second house of unworthiness, of not being enough, or just not being enough, not really valuing yourself. And hopefully this full moon in the 11th house will allow you to see what is so unique about you and why you are so valuable, and that should in turn start to combat some of these money stories that could be an external reflection of the internal reality. And I'll end with what's going on with Venus. So you have Venus and Gemini in the 4th house, which is really beautiful for your home life, your family life, if you've been wanting to improve certain aspects of the home, or if you've been wanting to just feel more emotionally stable. This is a time in which you are likely to feel that. Although Moon Pluto can bring out more emotions, Venus in the 4th house is generally going to bring you into a state of greater ease, and is making a trine to Saturn in the 12th, which is going to help you again, stabilize further by having maybe some more time alone, connecting with spirit, going out in nature. Those things are really going to help you feel just so at peace, and I feel like you're just naturally going to cultivate that. However, Venus is also making a square to Neptune in the 1st. So even though you guys might be feeling more at ease and more at peace, I think that sometimes these visions that you have that are inspiring you, that are exciting you, that you want to pursue, maybe you lack clarity on exactly how you're going to bring those into life, and that could kind of make you feel a little bit nervous. But regardless, I think that this is ultimately really beneficial for you. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Pisces Rising. If that resonates, please let me know by liking and commenting down below. If you want an astrology reading, you can book one at willowsboom.com or in the description box down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.